How are you doing today? We're in Johnson 5. I'll be reviewing Johnson 5, Chapter 5. Johnson, Chapter 5. I'll begin on the section, The Misdirection of Everyday Dialect. Why is Julie struggling to grasp the material in her conceptual issues class? Why is that? Julie is now convinced that her interests reside more in practical as opposed to the intellectual field. Julie is trying to avoid the intellectual struggle to understand and to use esoteric material to aid her in her learning, which she don't want to put in the work. Therefore, she is convinced she don't need all of the concepts and ideas that's required for an ABA practitioner in order to be efficient, in order to be fluid when learning and teaching this material, which is definitely necessary. Learning abstract and verbal behavior concepts and terms could be a struggle at times, which it is. It's struggling, but it's challenging. Nonetheless, after you grasp it, it really opens up, elucidates the learning process, and it makes it so much more fun. Uh, Using behavioral terminology confidently is challenging but necessary. Becoming a practitioner who is stuck with sloppy verbal conceptual issues is very possible. So we need to do our best to try to avoid that and start to now learn the way we're to learn this concepts and this material. So in the future we'll have a sound foundation going forward. Knowledge and understanding. Knowledge is one of the many modes we explain our behavior. It is knowledge being used as a noun. It is used as a noun, knowledge, right? Person, place, or thing. It's something we know, show, or have. That is what knowledge is, according to Johnson. When we act with knowledge, it yields understanding by demonstrating such knowledge by knowing it. So, knowledge is to understand and to show you understand. The materialistic view of knowledge could be described as a type of mental aggregation gained through experience and access and exhibited when required. Knowledge allows us to do what we must because of what we know. Behavior analysis application is one of the circumstances that generate behavior. Therefore, knowledge does not explain behavior. Again, knowledge does not explain behavior. Knowledge and understanding. We're still on this. Philosophers and psychologists and the forms of knowing how and knowing about. These are the two strands. Observation. Rachel speaks French on various occasions. My understanding is that she speaks French because I overheard her speaking French. Rachel speaking French is a long reinforcement history for labeling events around us, and this implied she will continue to speak French in past and future occasions because I heard her. Example, I saw Kathy today is different because it reports a single event. Same as saying I heard Rachel speak French, yielding a singular observation. Saying Rachel speaks French implies the existence of the knowledge of French. Behavior does not exist if it is not occurring. The interface amongst organism and environment equal behavior. At best, we might surmise history of a particular behavior which resides and it is unidentified recesses of our physiological machinery, but behavior is not stored, meaning that we might surmise that our behavior and the way we act is stored. Nonetheless, it is not. It is not stored. Relevant discriminative stimuli. Example, to know about something is to know how that thing works. My understanding of vintage Porsches is suitable if it has been reinforced and punished in the past. My observation of my own behavior talking about Porsches allows me to say I know about Porsches. My answer must be reinforcing. Mentalistic ideas is not needed to clarify dialect references. Behavior is observed typically under precise stimulus conditions. Behavior in a reinforcement history has no mental storage that provides an origin for resulting behavior. Meaning there's no mental storage, there's no safe one could go and say, aha, there's the behavior. No, that's not the case according to Johnson. Having an idea. What is mental activity? When we have an idea, it could be considered behavior, a verbal behavior. A sensory behavior is when we hear sound or see something. The behavior of seeing, hearing, etc. does not continuously necessitate sensory stimulation. Historical influences on behavior are not easily recognized since casual variables are typically involved. Hence, we informally tend to attribute our notion to mental processes. Having an idea and the idea of any particular behavior are similar. A behavior might not be there one instant and there the next. Before that behavior was occurring, it was not occurring. Distinguishing a behavior as unprompted might only reflect our inability to predict its occurrence. When we engage in a behavior, it may not be evident. Nonetheless, we are still behaving. As unsatisfying or as maddening to fully understand behavior, it is multifaceted, principally historical and customarily not obvious, whether public or private. Purpose, intention, and goals. Influences on behavior can be in the past or present, but cannot in the future. An occurrence must materialize in order to yield an outcome. Telegraphical, a problematic concept to exhibit behavior in everyday occurrence. Rather, this concept evoke mentalism that is contrary to behaviorism. The dog is hungry. He is sitting to get food. Observing the dog's behavior, there is no evidence of anything we might call trying or intending, only the behavior of sitting, which is signaling purpose of the event indirectly. Purpose, intention, and goals. The behavior of looking for something. When we're looking for something, we are participating in response class that has before produced the reinforcers. Our behavior fluctuate from occurrence to occurrence. However, the concept of response classes accommodates this variability. Operant response classes. Behavior seems uniquely steered by the specific object we see. Moreover, the condition in our history of observing for dissimilar objects under various conditions. Purpose of action may include describing its function, which is not problematic for the science of behavior. Problem solving. Describing problem solving circumstances are labeled when the individual has no behavior instantly accessible that can resolve a condition of deprivation or adverse stimulation. Johnson. We might face a problem if we fail to consume food all day, a condition of deprivation, but have no way of getting food. Example, attempting to reach Skinner and there is a noisy tenant next door, which is an adverse condition, an aversive condition. Example of Skinner's explanation of problem-solving solution has replied that modifies the circumstances until the problem is terminated. Rules, advice, and instructions. 1. Rules could be described as verbal behavior. Some are demands. Example, do your homework, clean your room. Some are gentler. Do you really think you should do that? Which could be called advice, but still share the same characteristic of rules. Memory versus remembering. Applied behavioral research attempts to define memory processes by making memory a clear, explanatory value. Conventional references to memory are typically supplemented by all the challenges of mentalism, making applied behavioral research less interested. Behavioral analysis tends to shy away from the challenges of this field because other mental concepts make it too easy to invent cognitive structure and processes as needed, causing difficulty to falsify them. Rules as function altering stimuli. Verbal behavior works as a form of rules to control behavior as discriminative stimuli. Nonetheless, this explanation affords an imperfect picture of how a speaker's verbal behavior may regulate a behavior. Looking out of the window for your roommate's day to arrive. This act serves to obtain your advice of direct history of differential reinforcement. You doing it because of her instructing you. Contingency specifying stimuli. A teacher tells his class every time put a star on the board, you can earn extra minute toward recess. In this example, the check marks represents the reinforcing properties. Rules, functions, altering stimuli. Unplanned contingencies of a baseball batter holding the bat imperfectly and he is incapable to hit the ball. Deprived of coaching, it might take numerous trials in the most effective manner of holding the bat to develop. Behavior that may have originally been ruled, governed, will increasingly change in the ways that become more reinforced. But there's more. Verbal behavior is investigated and its concerns. Behavior contingencies. Behavior that results from directives may often be less sensitive to contingencies compared to behavior that has been shaped. Question. Based on your research thus far, do you agree or disagree with the idea that behavior that results from directives may often be less sensitive to contingencies compared to behavior that has been shaped? Thank you for watching.